Hey cuties, what's up? We are back with some more reactions after dark, and we are of course going to be watching the Disturbing Internet Horrors of Korea Volume 3. This is the last volume for Korea so far, from Question, of course. Again, I wish he stuck with the more interesting to look at thumbnails for this series that he does, like Disturbing Internet Horrors of insert location. But you know, beggars can't be choosers, right? But yep, no hater segment today, no radical break. We're probably just gonna get straight into it. I don't know if I'm gonna do the Disturbing Internet Horrors of Japan next from Question or what. Like maybe back to Stephanie and then the Japan, or what? I don't know. We'll have to see. If you have any other channels you want to see, you need to let me know, because of course I'm just doing the list of guys that I normally go through, you know. Stephanie for her Rotten Mango channel, her Stephanie channel. Question's been added to the list. The Void, I think I went back to recently. Blame It on Jorge, Nick Crowley, Lazy Masquerade. Who else? Maybe Nexpo at some point. I don't know if I've done Nexpo. I think I have done Nexpo on that channel, so we can say Nexpo. Anyone else? Again, of course, I know about Mr. Ballin, like maybe eventually Mr. Ballin, so you don't have to say that. Of course, Stephanie's Mango channel. We have to go not hurry up, but like eventually get to the Marry My Husband series on the Mango channel. But yeah, so if you have any other videos you want to see, or like popular videos, viral videos, whatever, let me know. Oh, also Nuke's Top 5. We did Nuke's Top 5 before, of course, as well, just for the goofs, right? Because it's just all trash. If you're watching Nukes, that's just all like almost always garbage. There was that one story that was like actually interesting where the lady had to have the police come dig up her yard because they thought there might have been like a body or something back there, but I think it turned out not to be. But there was a rug, right? There was a rug buried in the backyard, and they thought there was a body in it, but it was empty or something. I don't know. That was actually really interesting, but I don't think there's ever been any more interesting than that for Nuke's top 5. There's normally just like people trying to be ghost tubers, making nonsense ghost videos, like fake ghost videos and whatnot. Anyways, we can get to this, see if there's anything I haven't, or see if there's anything I have seen before in here we don't know yet. Of course, like the sound, I like the analog horror feel that this gives. Of course, viewer discretion is advised as usual, which is basically what this stuff is saying here at the beginning. Educational, etc., etc. Content might be distressing. Again, viewer discretion is advised. Subway stalking case, this is called.
It started with messages, hundreds of them. Some angry, some pleading, some just simply silent. And by the time anyone realized what was happening, it was already too late. September 14th, 2022. Sendang Station, Line 2 of Seoul subway system. At 9 p.m., commuters moved through the tunnels, quiet, tired, and unaware that the inside of one of the staff-only restrooms, a 28-year-old woman was about to die. Her name was...
Was that a like 3D render of potentially this case? Like they made a 3D render for this case, not like Question, but maybe authorities made a 3D render of the subway to walk you through what happened. What was that?
A public employee working as a station attendant for Seoul Metro. She would spend most of her 20s underground, helping passengers, cleaning, managing station maintenance, just another face in the flow of people that passed through every day. But behind that normal routine, she was being watched. Just a year earlier, she reported a coworker, Jeonju Hwan, 31 years old, for stalking and harassment. He had begun messaging her obsessively after they had worked just a few overlapping shifts. And at first, the messages were casual, but then they multiplied, hundreds of them, sent at all hours of the day. And
who gave him her number?
When she didn't reply,
Who did that?
When she blocked him, he made new accounts. And when she avoided him at work, he waited for her outside the station exits. He sent hundreds of them over months. sometimes threatening, sometimes begging for forgiveness. And within weeks,
Shouldn't he be in jail for stalking at this point? Like, constantly messing with someone? Like, he's clearly a threat, right?
it had become clear that she was being stalked. He followed her between stations, appeared near her home, and sent threatening texts that mixed affection with rage. At one point, he even demanded she pay him compensation for the stress she caused him by ignoring him. The messages kept coming, over 350 in total. And finally, she would report him. In 2021, police opened a stalking investigation, one of the first high-profile cases under South Korea's new anti-stalking act. And when Seoul Metro learned about it, he was suspended and later fired. But even as the case went to trial, he kept reaching out. On September 14th, the day of his sentencing, he decided not to wait for a verdict. Instead, he went hunting. He followed her routine online, knew where she worked.
Okay, so he didn't... Like, he was going to go to court, right? But he didn't show up and said when to go stalk her and kill her? Question mark? That's the gist?
Time she started her shift. CCTV footage would later show him entering Sundang Station, wearing a disposable mask and carrying a backpack. And inside that backpack was a knife. At 9 p.m., cleaning a restroom reserved for female staff, she didn't see him come in. Then he would attack her. The attack itself lasted less than a minute. Her coworkers arrived after hearing screams, but by that time, he was already on the floor. The first responders tried CPR, but her wounds were too severe. She was just 28 years old. Outside, trains kept running. Passengers stepped off unaware that, just a few meters below, one of the station's own employees had been killed by someone she had begged the system to protect her from. The suspect, Ju Hwan, didn't resist arrest. He told police that he wanted to make her pay. He showed no remorse.
What? Did they break his arm? What does he have slung over his arm? Did they break this man's arm? I mean, I'm not complaining, but it looks like he has a broken arm.
Only frustration, saying that she had ruined his life by reporting him. And the reaction was instant. News spread overnight, and by morning, Sundang Station had become a shrine. Flowers, handwritten notes, and yellow ribbons covered the entrance. And across the country, outrage turned to protest. Women's groups gathered outside the National Assembly, demanding reforms to South Korea's weak anti-stalking laws. And at the time, stalking was treated as a minor offense, unless accompanied by physical harm, and John's case exposed how dangerous that loophole could really be. And within weeks...
Didn't they just buff the stalking thing? Because didn't they just say they put in like a new stalking law or something earlier, and it was still weak? So like another person had to be stalked and killed to further buff stalking laws to be where they should be? Question mark.
Lawmakers moved to strengthen the Stalking Punishment Act and increasing its penalties, but for many, it came far way too late. And during
like again, I thought it had just been modified.
Trial, Ju Hwan admitted that he planned the murder for weeks. He said he followed news about his own case online, growing more enraged every time her name appeared. He scouted the station multiple times before the attack. It was methodical, cold, and inevitable. In February 2023, the court sentenced him to life imprisonment.
Good.
Commuters, the station hasn't felt the same since. They still walk past the same memorial in silence. They still glance at the restroom door that was replaced. Like we see multiple times throughout the series, not just murder, but failure in the legal system. A failure of warning signs ignored, of systems too slow to protect the people who trust them. And the thing is, did everything right. She reported her stalker, she sought help, she waited for justice to arrive, but it was just one night too late.
That's just one of those things that was unfortunate that ended up happening. I mean, at least the laws got buffed right from it, but again, they should have been that way from the get-go. But I swear he said at the beginning they had just modified the stalking laws and whatnot, and yet they weren't strong enough to stop this from happening. Granted, I mean, he wasn't like arrested or anything, right? I think he was just showing up for court or something, but he chose not to. Like, I was a bit confused for that, what was going on with there. But I think that's about what had happened. Like, she reported him, he was going to get in trouble, he didn't show up, instead he went to go kill her. Question mark. Fantasy roleplay murderer. Unfortunately, another murder.
March 29th, 2017, early afternoon.
It would be nice if we just had something spooky in these videos and not just one where everyone, someone has to die, everyone. Oh, the burning sun. Oh, hello. I mean, spoilers, burning sun shows up this time around. I just wanted to see what else was here, if there's going to be any murders, but I don't remember there being murders in the burning sun scandal, so, I mean, if you've been watching the Rad videos before, like, if you haven't watched the burning sun stuff, I don't like it. First of all, who are you, having not seen the burning sun reaction videos? Question mark. Since I feel like all the Stephanie stuff is like the main stuff that people watch. So if you're watching this, you're like arguably more dedicated to the Rad videos than the average person, and yet you haven't seen the burning sun stuff? Like, that would be like questionable, right? Because I'm assuming if you're watching this, you've watched all of the Rad stuff. Because only the Stephanie stuff gets the most people to come in, right?
An 8-year-old girl was playing in the lobby of her apartment building in Dongcheon-dong. It was a Wednesday. She had her phone with her, but the battery was running low. A teenager approached her, a 17-year-old girl wearing oversized clothes, sunglasses, carrying a suitcase. She looked like she was moving or traveling. She offered to let the child use a landline phone upstairs in her apartment. Just a few minutes, she said. The 8-year-old would follow her back into the elevator, and she would never come back.
I was gonna say, like, is the 8-year-old like a trap, or was this person taking the 8-year-old? Like, it didn't even occur to me for some reason, like, stranger danger from the person enticing the child. Is this a woman talking to the child?
Chendong. It was a Wednesday. She had her phone with her, but the battery was running low. A teenager approached her, a 17-year-old girl wearing oversized clothes, sunglasses, carrying a suitcase. She looked like she was moving or traveling. She offered to let the child use a landline phone upstairs in her apartment.
Okay, so a teenage girl got a proper child, like female child, to follow them up to their apartment, and then they got rid of her. So it's not even like a grown woman, unless there's like what I would assume like a man up there who's going to do it. But it's a, depending on how old you are, everyone becomes a child at some point, right? So it's a child doing this to another child? Question mark? Like, I was not expecting that. Yeah, I don't know why for some reason I didn't even think this was like stranger danger from the person like trying to get the child to come up there at first. I was like, oh, is the child a trap? Like, are they trying to like get like a false sense of security? Like, oh, it's just a child. And then all of a sudden like a group of guys come and assails you, right? And they're like abusing the child to use as bait. But no, it's the other way around. The child just needed help and then they got screwed over.
Just a few
I guess? Question mark?
The 8-year-old would follow her back into the elevator, and she would never come back. By that evening, the girl's mother reported her missing. Neighbors started searching. Group chats spread the word across the apartment complex. People checked stairwells, parking lots, playgrounds, and Kim, even hypocritically, posted about the disappearance in those chats. Police reviewed CCTV footage from the building. They saw the teenager with the suitcase. They saw her leaving later with bags that hadn't been there before. They saw her making multiple trips to the rooftop in the building's trash area. Something was very wrong. Officers went to the teenager's apartment. She lived with her parents in the family apartment, but would commit the crime while they were away. Just a few floors above the victim's family. When they entered, the place looked clean. Almost too clean. Like someone had scrubbed it recently. They used luminol, a chemical that reveals blood, even after it's...
Yep. You spray it on something and then you get like a black light. Shows what's there, no matter what you do, right? Because the whole thing of like blood never goes away, right? So...
In the bathroom, lit up. They found remains within hours. She'd been bagged as food waste and thrown into the communal bins. Others were hidden on the rooftop. The girl had been strangled with a charging cord and then dismembered in the bathroom.
Like, why though?
Specific organs and body parts with disturbing care. A finger.
Like, why would a 17-year-old do this, and why would a 17-year-old be able to do this, like you just said, with such care? As if they're like a professional?
Sections of flesh and internal organs. The dismemberment involved 6 kitchen knives, and Kim took photos during the process for proof. The cleanup was done with bleach, though luminol still detected blood. Disposal included organs and labeled food waste bags. Park would later chop parts up with gloves and scissors before discarding, and the teenager was arrested around midnight. Her name was kept anonymous in media reports because she was a minor. The court documents refer her as Kim. Kim showed no emotion during questioning. She didn't deny what she's done, and she explained it calmly, like she was describing a school project. She said she had done it as a gift for someone she's been talking to online. A 19-year-old woman, referred to in reports as Park. She lived in...
Another woman? Like, what the heck? It's just... Like, you know, you're just sitting here with it, waiting for like a guy to be like, okay, this is all a guy's fault. But like, no, like, what the heck? Like, a 17-year-old girl this horrendous thing for well, she's 19. You could still say that's pretty young. Like, you're just barely past adult age. Like, doing this for another adult woman? Like, what is going on? What's wrong with y'all?
Part of the city. Police found body parts in her possession, delivered to her earlier that day in a shopping bag. Park claimed she didn't know what they were. She said they thought they were props, fake, part of a game. But the evidence told a different story. Kim and Park had met through anonymous online role-playing communities, platforms like Kakao Talk and Twitter, where users...
Oh yeah, I forgot this is supposed to be some sort of role-playing thing. Like, what?
...create characters and act out scenarios together. Fantasy worlds, fictional narratives, and escape from reality. And their roleplay focused on violence, mafia scenarios, torture, cannibalism. They created characters, built stories, and would even exchange messages describing brutal acts in explicit detail. And over time...
I was like, what are they? Are they like? I guess they're role playing evil characters. I don't know if they're like playing D&D or something, or like just role playing just in general, like with no actual basis. They're just role playing.
The line between fantasy and reality started to blur. Kim became obsessive with impressing Park, with proving her devotion. Park had mentioned a fascination with hands and body parts in the roleplay. She expressed it in receiving certain items as gifts. Park's specific obsession was a hand fetish, leading to requests like the pinky finger. And she manipulated Kim with affection. And Kim decided to make it real. She spent days planning the abduction. She chose the victim because she lived nearby and she was vulnerable. Prepared her apartment, bought supplies, and she rehearsed what she would say to lure the girl inside. On March 29th, she executed the plan. After killing the girl, Kim took photos. She sent updates to Park via messages. She packaged the body parts Park had mentioned wanting and arranged to deliver them. Park would receive them later that day. She chopped them up further and disposed of them. And then both women deleted their digital communications, thinking that they had completely covered their tracks, but they hadn't.
Like I said, it looks like Park is also going to get in trouble. You could argue maybe she'll get in even more trouble than Kim, even though Kim's the one who did it, since you could argue like it's manipulation of a child, since Kim is still technically a minor, but Park isn't. I don't know how this works.
Covered the deleted messages from help from US tech companies. The conversations revealed months of escalating fantasies, discussions about what it would feel like to kill someone, what different body parts look like, how to avoid getting caught. Park had encouraged the fantasies, expressed excitement about them, and continued treating the conversations like a game, even when Kim started talking about acting them out in reality. During the investigation, Kim claimed she suffered from mental health issues, schizophrenia, dissociative identity disorder. She said she had heard voices, that she had multiple personalities, and she wasn't in control of her actions. But experts would later conclude she faked the symptoms. She studied behaviors and mimicked them deliberately to build a defense. And Kim had a history that raised red flags in hindsight. She dropped out of high school. She was intelligent, tested with a high IQ, but socially isolated. Teachers and classmates described her as antisocial. She had drawn violent images in notebooks, made disturbing comments that people dismissed as edgy humor. She had dropped out of prestigious schools, had a history of animal cruelty, threats like strangling cats.
I mean, well, animal cruelty, psychopath. I mean, we're already trying to get to the point where like Kim was just kind of like a what the heck? Psychopath slash sociopath. I think I was thinking about the word sociopath when I was trying to say psychopath because I was going to say socio afterwards, and I just mixed them together. But yeah, like psychopath, sociopath. You could already like figured that out a long time ago. But like animal cruelty. I mean, high IQ, whatever. I mean, not saying like smart people are sociopaths or psychopaths, but I think like a lot of psychopaths have high IQs, right? Because you have to pretend to be something you're not, right? You have to fit in and create this whole like mask and whatnot, right? So it's like just because she's smart doesn't mean she can't be a psychopath. It actually means she probably it just makes it more so that she could be a psychopath. I don't know. Don't listen to what I'm saying. But yeah, just like psychopath who got too deep with someone else, she was trying to impress Park, right? Like almost in a romantic way, taking their role playing too far. Again, what were they playing? Were they just like making stuff up, or were they playing like Dungeons and Dragons or something, or what? It's just straight up just role playing fan fiction between each other, I guess.
Cats, and created violent drawings of strangled necks and gore, possibly giving her anatomy knowledge for the dismemberment. But no one had intervened, and no one flagged her as a serious risk. Park's background.
Well, I think arguably, just drawing messed up stuff is fine. Obviously, actually hurting real animals, okay, well, you should be put in to a mental institute already, if not in jail time for that. But I think if you're just drawing disturbing things, that's perfectly fine. You could just be seen as, artistic expression, getting out emotions, whatever. But you have, a combination with that and hurting animals and all of your role play is dark. Whatever. Specifically, it's the hurting animals part that's like, okay, you're a psychopath.
Was different, but equally concerning. She was legally an adult at 19. She had been active in online communities for years, building elaborate fictional worlds with strangers. And she had specific obsessions: hands, body parts, violence that she indulged through roleplay.
I think that's just like some fan fiction they were all just partaking in, no like game or anything that they're playing. They're just LARPing.
She never intended for any of it to happen in real life. But the
sure.
messages showed her encouraging Kim, praising her plans, and expressing interest in the gifts. And even after Kim started hinting that she was planning something actually real, Park didn't stop her, didn't report her, and didn't pull back. And the trials began later in 2017. Kim, as a minor, faced a maximum sentence of 20 years under South Korea's
Only 20 for infanticide? Would this be considered infanticide? Question mark. That's it, because she was also a kid herself. She only gets 20 years. Officially, if she's gonna get 20, she get 20 in prison and then another X amount in a mental institution trying to fix whatever's going on. I don't know if you can really fix being a psychopath, sociopath. I feel like you're just born that way. Like your brain is just constructed that way from birth, and I don't know if there's anything you can really do about it. Question mark. Other than somehow have that person actively try and not commit bad things. Like, it'd be like, okay, I don't want to commit bad things because bad things equals prison time, even though I want to do them, but it's like, how much restraint can they have? Right, I don't know. Yeah, like, is Park gonna get away with it? Does she, like, plausible deniability? Is that correct, right? Plausible deniability over what Kim did?
juvenile justice laws, and Park, as an adult, could receive life imprisonment. The victim's family pushed for the harshest penalties possible, arguing that the crime was premeditated, that Kim had shown no remorse, and that both women understood exactly what they were doing. And in September 2017, Kim received 20 years, and Park received life in imprisonment. But
they both got the fullest extent.
Still, as we've seen before, just 20 years for killing someone is not long enough to match the brutality of what she had done. And Kim,
yeah, I mean, it's just the fact that she was a child, quote-unquote child, when she did it.
the one that only received 20 years, actually tried to appeal the sentence. She claimed the court hadn't properly considered her mental health, that she deserved treatment, not prison. But of course, in April 2018, the courts rejected her claims, and the ruling noted that Kim has shown no genuine remorse. In fact, she had sent threatening messages to the victim's family from prison, saying that she would find them when she got out. And even today, they're still in prison.
Shouldn't she get more time for that? Like, when did she send those messages? Was she an adult yet? Because if she's adult yet, shouldn't you, like, force her to get more time just to make sure she stays there even longer? For the threats?
But recent reports from 2024 and 2025 indicate that Kim has written letters from prison, and those letters still don't express any type of regret for what she did. Kim wasn't browsing extremist forums or consuming illegal content. She was in spaces that thousands of teenagers use every day for creative expression and social interaction. And what set her apart was the decision to act on the fantasies. And it could have been several factors of why she decided to do this. Kim's social isolation, her lack of empathy, her need for validation from Park. But again, none of that fully explains why an intelligent 17-year-old would strangle a child, dismember her body, and photograph the process to send to someone she's never even
She's a psychopath.
met in person. But Park's
She's born that way.
She wasn't physically present. She didn't wield a knife, but her encouragement, her interest, her willingness to receive and dispose of the body parts, all of it made her complicit. The victim was an 8-year-old. She trusted an older teenager who seemed to be offering help, and she had no reason to suspect danger in her own apartment building in the middle of the day, in a place she considered safe. Her mother had to learn that her daughter was murdered, dismembered, and treated like an object in someone else's twisted fantasy. And the girl who did it lived just floors above them, that she had been planning it while passing them in the hallway every day. And the community itself had to reckon with the fact that a crime this brutal happened in their building, carried out by a teenager they've probably seen dozens of times without noticing anything wrong.
I wonder how much this affects people just moving out, right? To know that there was a murderer in your apartment complex that not only murdered someone else, but it was a child at that. Do you just move? Or do you stay? Question mark. There'd be a reason why you would stay? I'm not going to say it because it's messed up to say, but I feel like some people would want to stay because of a certain outcome that this would have on the apartment complex itself.
Kim and Park created stories together. Stories about torture, murder, and body parts. Stories that felt safe because they only existed in text messages online and in roleplay scenarios. Until one day, where Kim decided to cross that line. And an 8-year-old girl became the victim of a crime that started in a chat room and ended in a bathroom, carried out by someone who lived just floors above her, and saw her as nothing more as a gift to impress a stranger online.
I'm just thinking that hopefully they didn't end up in the same prison, right? So they can just keep talking about and committing their fantasies. And if Kim's able to access the outside world, because she apparently is writing messages to the outside and could even antagonize the family of the person that she killed, that means she could still be in contact with Park. So if they're not in prison together, if they're in separate prisons, are they communicating with each other still? And if so, where's that gonna go? Question mark. What if Kim... Because if Kim stays in contact with Park, Kim might just do it again once she gets out and like send it to the prison that Park's in or something. I don't know. I feel like that's something you need to be worried about in the future. And here is Burning Sun, like we saw earlier. Again, if you don't know about the Burning Sun, if you're watching this video and you don't know about it, it's like, is this like your first time watching my channel or like what? Question mark. Because again, there's no way you're watching this video and haven't seen the Burning Sun stuff. But if you haven't, like, oof, what is after this? Let's see. Oh my god, is it just gonna Stephanie after Stephanie? Because right after this, it's this so fairy disaster again. If you have not watched any of my original rad videos, like hello, like there's no way. But yeah, Burning Sun we've already discussed before with Stephanie. Same thing with the so fairy disaster, though I don't know if like so much of this is devoted to this, which we've already heard of for. Like we've talked in length about Burning Sun and the fairy. Like the fairy disaster was one of the first videos we did for rad, so oof. So we're just gonna be sitting here for like another half an hour listening stuff we've already heard from before.
Gangnam District, inside a nightclub called Burning Sun, a confrontation turned violent. A man named Kim Sang-kyo thought was a woman being assaulted.
So we're starting with this, where the guy, some whistleblower, goes into this place, sees a woman get abused, tries to help her, calls the cops to come deal with this. He actually gets beat up by the people in the Burning Sun, and then the cops show up, and I think they further beat him up and then arrest him because the cops are on the pay grade. Like the cops are crooked here for the Burning Sun, which it's been a while since we've had anything like to talk about with the government of Korea, but they used to be a dictatorship, right? And some of that might have still trickled down into modern society, right? And thus a lot of cops are potentially so crooked, and that harmed like a lot of these things, like a lot of like these situations that ended up turning out, or even like the Seoul ferry disaster. I think the government being kind of stupid didn't help with that either. So there's multiple times where the government is just like trash. Like, not to spoil this, but again, like, come on, have you not watched the Burning Sun videos?
He stepped in, and within minutes, club security had him on the ground, beating him, dragging him across the floor. And when police arrived, they handcuffed him, and the staff who attacked him walked away. And if the CCTV footage hadn't leaked online, it likely would have just ended there, handled quietly, the way these incidents often do. But the video itself showed everything. Kim being kicked, restrained, and hauled across the club by multiple employees. It completely contradicted the police report. And once that footage hit Korean forums, people started asking why the police treated him as an offender instead of the victim. Why was it?
Yeah, like I haven't seen this because, of course, Stephanie didn't show this footage. I don't know if he should even be showing this footage. I don't see like a rating down there, so it should be fine. But
nightclub getting this kind of protection. By January 28th, 2019, national news couldn't ignore it anymore. NBC News Deck ran the story, and that's when the real investigation began. The club was called Burning Sun, and was connected to one of the biggest names in K-pop, Lee Sung-hyun, his stage name, Seungri, a member of Big Bang, one of the most successful groups in the industry. And he wasn't just a celebrity who'd show up for appearances, he was the co-owner, an investor, and the public face of the club. And after that, the allegations expanded beyond the initial assault. Women started coming forward with stories that sounded almost identical. They described being drugged at the club, pulled in the private rooms, losing...
I completely forgot even like what was even happening to Burning Sun just because it's been so long, even though I'm saying like, how have you not watched the Burning Sun videos? But yeah, it's just, they have women show up, all their VIPs are like, I want that one. The bartenders give them a drink that's spiked, and then they take them to the VIP, and the VIP does whatever they want with them, and then they wake up the next day not knowing what happened, or they know what happened, but there's nothing they can do about it because all the people here are big shots, and of course the police are in on it too, so it's just a lose-lose. I mean, obviously it does eventually get taken down, right?
In consciousness, and waking up hours later with no memory of what happened. Some said videos had been filmed, and in February, police raided Burning Sun. They found drugs, financial records that didn't match up, private rooms that weren't publicly advertised and hadn't been used for years. Seungri apologized publicly, and then resignated as the director. He would claim that he had no knowledge of what was happening, but the investigators weren't buying it. And then in March of 2019, everything would explode. A journalist would obtain private group chats from 2015 and 2016, messages between entertainers, businessmen, and friends, and what she found wasn't gossip or idle celebrity talk. It was hard evidence. The chats itself contained videos, dozens of them, non-consensual recordings of women being assaulted, filmed without their knowledge, and shared between men who apparently felt safe doing so, discussed victims in dehumanizing terms, references to fresh meat being brought to the club, and around 200 explicit videos and photos were found. The conversations were casual, men talking about
Yeah, this is like just this group chat that they had that just them just constantly talking about all the wrongdoings that they were doing. Who was it? Was it G-Dragon? Or like, I don't think it was G-Dragon. Was it G-Dragon? I don't know who. I don't want to say that name because I don't know if he was a part of this. Whoever it was, some sort of person who was part of this had some sort of obsession with not letting go because they were in like burner chats. I don't know what they're called. That might be what they're called though. But it's supposed to be a chat where you have a conversation with someone, and as soon as everyone leaves the chat, it deletes itself and everything inside of it, never to be seen again. But one person from this group of people doing this stuff never left the chat because they just wanted to keep that info or whatever the heck was in there forever. I don't know why. I don't know what his reasoning was. And I think he actually snitched on everybody, potentially at the end, because he had all that stuff saved. And that might be why we even have all this stuff. I forget if it was mainly because of them getting all this stuff from him or what. But yeah, and that one guy not wanting to get rid of the burner chats properly.
like they were nothing.
Not just a single room, but multiple
They
rooms.
weren't random criminals either. They were famous, singers, TV personalities, people with millions of fans. Jung Joon-young, a popular singer and TV host, was at the center, and he would later admit to filming at least 10 women without their consent during and then sharing the footage in the group chats. Choi Jong-hoon from the band FT Island was involved. So were members from other groups like Highlight and C in Blue, and all the other level of participation varied. Some filmed, some watched, some just knew and said nothing. And the chat logs spread across Korean forums within just hours. And what made this different wasn't just the individual crimes. As the investigation deepened, police corruption surfaced. Officers had taken bribes from club owners. They leaked information about raids ahead of time. They destroyed evidence. One senior officer, Young Gyu-young, was convicted of accepting money and sharing confidential details to help the club avoid scrutiny.
Again, like, the cops are dirty, so like it was a lose-lose for a while.
The women who reported assaults at Burning Sun had been dismissed. They were told they were drunk, blamed for being at the club in the first place. The system designed to protect them had been compromised. Guhara, a female K-pop idol who was dealing with her own revenge case at the time.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this. So I was like, you know, murder, and I was like, well, this is all just drugging and assault, extracurricular assault, which is, you could argue, is worse than murder. But I was like, oh, at least no one died. But then I was like, oh, Guhara, remember, like, okay, never mind. She committed self-exit over this, and then someone else too, I think. I don't know who went first, her or her friend, but they both ended up committing self-exit.
Time quietly helped investigators identify a corrupt officer. She didn't publicize it, she just did it. In September 2019, Guhara would unfortunately take her own life.
Yep.
She'd been facing intense public scrutiny and legal battles over her own case, and her death would become part of how people remember this period. A brutal reminder of how brutal the spotlight can really be for the victims who chose to speak up. Trials dragged on for years. Jung Joo-young.
Again, if you want to see more like about this, go watch the rad reaction to Burning Sun. I think it's 3 parts, but or just go watch Stephanie. Like, if you don't care about me, go watch her video. Like, Stephanie, was it Stephanie Sue or was it Rotten Mango? It might have been Rotten Mango. Yeah, go to her Rotten Mango video, her channel, and look up Burning Sun, and there should be like at least 3 videos on Burning Sun. Maybe even other stuff that mentions Burning Sun, of course, because it is something that's going to get brought up from time to time elsewhere. But yeah, Rotten Mango, Burning Sun, go watch her videos, or if you want to watch me, you can watch mine as my reaction to those stuff as well.
Was sentenced to 5 years in prison, which would later be reduced. He would admit to filming women without their consent and was convicted of participating in gang alongside Choi Jong-hoon, and Choi would get 2.5 years for similar crimes. Sungri's case was separate but connected. He faced 9 charges related to the club itself, including embezzlement, illegal gambling, and much more. He wasn't charged with but prosecutors proved he arranged workers for foreign investors to secure business deals and had embezzled millions from the club. And in 2022, his sentence was reduced to just 18 months. Just 18.
I was gonna say, like, none of these people really got in trouble that badly because, for whatever reason, extracurricular assault isn't taken that seriously over there. Like, more so drugs, which, I mean, they had drugs, and isn't the thing they take the most seriously drugs? Like murder, who cares? Extracurricular assault, who cares? Drugs, you are going to be excommunicated from existence.
18 months for someone whose club became the center of the scandal. Other involved idols left the industry quietly. Some paid fines. Some just disappeared from public life. The club CEOs, the investors, the enablers, they all faced some type of punishment. But for many of the survivors and observers, none of it felt like justice. The sentences were very light, the men served reduced time, and most were released early for good behavior. South Korea's laws remained pretty weak. Sentences still averaged to 2 to 5 years, far below many international standards. And by 2023, some of the men involved were actually attempting comebacks, trying to test the waters, seeing if the public had forgotten, but the public didn't. The trials continued for years, and the public debate never really stopped. What Burning Sun really revealed was how these crimes could be normalized and protected. The group chat showed how casual it had become. Men with everything to lose felt completely safe discussing illegal acts in writing. The police corruption showed how protection was built into the system. Clubs like Burning Sun didn't just survive despite what was happening inside, they had help looking the other way. And the aftermath afterward really showed how difficult it was to create lasting change. Public outrage happened, protests happened, trials and sentences happened, the perpetrators served time, and most of them would even try to plot their own return. And the horror of Burning Sun isn't just what happened in those private rooms, it was the realization of how widespread this really is. The video shared in those chats represented real women who might have never known they were being filmed. Behind every famous name was a network of people who knew and did nothing. The club would eventually close. The men served their time or paid their fines. Life moved on for everyone except the victims, who had to live knowing that their assaults became entertainment for men who never thought they would face any type of consequence. And that's truly what remains in the story. It took hundreds of reports. It took a leaked video, persistent journalists, public pressure, and years of trials to even get partial accountability. And Burning Sun ended up becoming a prime example of how deep corruption can really be. And this really imposes a question: what happens in the next case? Whether the next woman who reports an assault gets believed instead of being blamed. Whether anyone actually learned anything, or whether we're just waiting for the next leak, the next scandal, the next story that spreads fast enough that it can't be buried.
Yeah, I don't know if assaults has been upgraded law-wise yet or what. Because I think people still might be saying that it's not taken that seriously still. Question mark again. I think the thing that takes the biggest precedence is drugs. Everything else takes a backseat to that in Korea, I think. And of course, come on, where's the title? Seoul Ferry Disaster. I don't know how to say this. I'm just saying like Seoul, as in like the place, but that's not how you spell the place. But that is this ferry disaster. Again, we've already seen this. Is this the one with the kids or the other one? I think this is the one with the kids, right? So look at the worst one, basically.
2014. A ferry called MW Seoul was already sinking in the water off South Korea's southwest coast. On board were 476 people. Most of them were teenagers, second-year students.
Yeah, this is the kids who were going on like a field trip or something, and then it's just like constant negligence and just government stupidity and like just go watch Stephanie's video if you haven't seen it. Again, another Rotten Manga video called the same thing. You just go look up Seoul Ferry on her channel, or you just go scroll all the way to the top of my rad videos and you'll see the reaction to it.
Students from Danwon High School in Onsen on a school trip to Jeju Island, and they left in
Jeju.
Taking group photos on the deck, posted selfies, and complained about the early wake-up time, having full trust in the adults in charge. And the ferry itself had a history that no one was told about. Built in Japan in 1994, the Sewao had been sold to a Korean shipping company, Chonghaejin Marine, years later. After the purchase, it was heavily modified. Extra decks were added to increase passenger capacity. More space was carved out for cargo, ballast water. The weight of the bottom of the ship that keeps it stable was reduced to make room for more freight. It was very profitable, but it also made it very unstable. And on the morning of April 16th, the ship was carrying more than twice its legal cargo limit. Vehicles, shipping containers, crates stacked high, and most of it wasn't secured properly.
I forget how much overweight it was, because they had so much cargo on the ship on top of this huge like class that they had with them, like whole entire school, right? They had a whole schools of kids with them, and a bunch of like cargo nonsense underneath, because they just had to maximize profits.
Safety inspections had passed anyway. They almost always did. Regulators in the company had arrangements that let the violation slide. Money changed hands, paperwork got signed, and the Sewao was a disaster waiting to happen. Around 8:30 in the morning, the ferry entered the main Goal Channel near Jendo Island, a narrow stretch of water known for strong currents. The control of the ship was handed to a third mate, a woman with relatively little experience navigating this route. She made a turn, a sharp one that was too sharp. At that speed, with an overloaded upper deck and loose cargo, the ship began to tilt. Inside, students felt desks slide, water bottles rolled across the floors. Some of them even laughed at first, thinking it was just the rough water. But the tilt didn't stop. Cargo broke free and slammed into the side of the ship. The angle grew steeper, and water started pouring into the hull, through openings that should have been sealed. and at 8:58 a.m., a distress call went out. But instead of ordering evacuation, the announcements that followed told passengers to do the opposite. Stay.
Some of the video here, I don't think we saw from Stephanie's video, but yeah, he's talking about the fact that the captain, question marks, told everyone to just stay inside instead of trying to leave, question mark, and they just kept that on repeat or something.
Stay where you are. Remain in your cabins. Do not move. Teachers repeated the instructions to their students, and the students listened. They texted their parents. Mom, I love you. If I don't make it, don't forget me. And those messages would be the last contact some families ever had. As the ferry leaned past 30 degrees, movement became nearly impossible. Hallways turned vertical, doors were pinched shut by water pressure, cabins began flooding. And while hundreds of passengers were still trapped inside, the captain was leaving. Captain Lee Yong-shuk abandoned ship early, along with most of the crew. They climbed into rescue boats. They were wearing life jackets. Some survivors later said they saw crew members walking past them on the deck without even saying a word, without offering any help, just headed for the exit.
Yeah, I mean, they just left like an entire school of kids to just drown, essentially, from this. They told them to stay inside and then just let them rot in there as they all just ran away to leave them to die. And the teacher stayed, of course, with them too, because they are listening to what the captain says instead of like panicking and running out.
Exits. Outside, rescue vessels started arriving, but coordination was a mess. The Coast Guard hesitated, orders were unclear, divers struggled against the strong currents and zero visibility in the water. Civilian fishing boats and commercial vessels rescued many of the people who made it onto the deck, or jumped into the water, but the ones still inside never had a chance.
I think also there was like nobody was really doing anything, and like civilians were like, okay, screw this, we're gonna go do it ourselves. And I think the government actually was trying to stop them from doing it, like, oh, you don't know what you're doing, you're not professional enough, you're just gonna make more trouble. And it's like no, these people who have boats and or whatnot, like, kind of know what they're doing, right? So no, I think it did play out that way. Like, they wanted to go, like, the civilians wanted to help, but the government was like, screw you, stop, and just let the kids die, right? But I think some of the civilians did end up helping, I'm not sure. Like, all of these things, it's making me remember that all of these things that happened in Korea that we watched from Stephanie / Rotten Mango, like, a lot of the good that happened in these tragedies was from just regular civilians, people on the ground, whatnot. And the government was just, crudding the bed, as they say, or whatever, right? They're just like, we're not going to help. Like, we have to go through all this red tape. Can't do this, can't do that. Yada. Like the Itaewon Halloween disaster, this Seoul ferry disaster, the bridge disaster, with Burning Sun, the police were in on it, right? So the government's screwing you over there as well. Yeah, I get like these three. So what about the mall disaster? Same thing with that one, I think. Maybe with that one, the government was like, okay, we gotta hurry up and get these people out of here. That one I don't remember too clearly if the government was actually fast acting, like, okay, never mind, we gotta get in there, compared to everything else, Seoul, the bridge, Itaewon.
For hours, television broadcast reported that everyone had been rescued, and parents watching from home felt relief until the networks would correct themselves. The ferry sank completely in about 2.5 hours. 304 people died, 250 of them were students. And the days after, South Korea stopped. Families gathered at ports, gyms, makeshift morgues, waiting for news that almost never came. And the sea gave up the bodies slowly. Some took weeks to recover. Some were never even found. Yellow ribbons appeared everywhere, on backpacks, on storefronts, on social media, a symbol of mourning and solidarity. But that grief turned into anger very fast.
I don't know where this is in the timeline, but like the older people in Korea are like just losing all hope at this. I had like the old man, was it from Itaewon? I think it was the Itaewon. The old guy just like having a mental breakdown in the street that this happened in, because the kids just keep dying. You have the Seoul tragedy, hundreds of kids died, right? I don't remember. Then you had the Itaewon Halloween crush, right? And that was a bunch of kids just partying. A lot of them died. And then I think on the bridge, I don't know the timelines, but on the bridge, there's a school bus, bridge gave out, and some kids died there too. All the adults just keep watching kids die, and it's driving them crazy. They constantly have to watch like the generation that's supposed to replace them just die over and over and over again.
Investigations revealed what many people suspected immediately. The ship should have never been allowed to sail. It was overloaded, carrying double its legal cargo limit. Its cargo wasn't secured, and when the ship tilted, everything shifted, making the list worse. The modifications after it was sold had compromised its stability to reduce ballast water, meant the ship couldn't right itself. Safety checks were rubber stamped. Inspectors either didn't look closely or were paid not to care. The crew itself was unprepared. Many had
the issues with this boat was like it was just doing stuff to make as much money as possible and not meeting up to like not being up to safety code because they wanted to make more money and like everyone was in on it, right?
training. The third mate making that turn never even navigated that route as a primary officer. And when the crisis came, the system failed at every single level. And the government's response made everything worse. Rescue efforts were widely criticized as slow and disorganized. High-ranking officers gave conflicting explanations. Questions about delays and who made which decisions were met with silence or vague answers.
Oh yeah, this may remember. This one was even more screwed than this. He probably didn't go into it. But like I said, I think the citizens were like on the ground, ready to help, / were helping, whilst, you know, the government was like twiddling their fingers. A stationed U.S. Navy vessel was literally down the freaking street from this and could have had all these children saved instantaneously. No deaths, maybe. Like, if we can argue best case scenario. Could have been there instantly, saved everybody. But because of stupid government nonsense, we can't have us owing the United States, so we can't ask them for help. I think maybe they eventually did, I'm not sure. But like, literally, Navy vessel down the street that I think might have had people who specialized in saving people. Like, it was like that stupid. It might have been just that stupid, right? Literally a vessel full of people who are experts at saving people were not allowed to help because of stupid red tape government nonsense. So they just sacrifice these kids' lives because of not wanting to owe the U.S. I think this was like that scenario. That's just how crazy this was. They didn't want to have the U.S. help. They didn't want the citizens helping. They kept their own people who could do this at bay for a while. I think a lot of the people who were helpers on their side were not experienced in helping people. Like, they had no experience actually helping. They, like, their own Navy or something, like the Navy or whoever they were using to help in this situation didn't have practice or experience helping people. They were just other Navy stuff, right? Other water stuff, I don't know.
And trust in the government completely collapsed. Protests erupted. Families of the victims demanded answers.
Yeah, 270 missing this one. Hundreds died because of this stupid government. Like all governments, like I'm saying, I know we're dog piling on Korea's government right now, but it's just his government in general, right? But it's like all these videos we were having back to back on Korea's government constantly just not doing anything for the people, which is like so bad. But like on the flip side, like I was saying, it's always its own people coming to save themselves. So like all the good and humanity is in just your average Joe, average Jane, right, coming to the rescue rather than the actual people who are there who's supposed to help you. So it's just like government bad, sure, but the Korean people good, right? They're the heroes and the government is just trash.
They camped outside government buildings. They held vigils. They refused to let the country move on from this incident. And the question they kept asking was quite simple. Why did our children die while the people responsible for their safety was able to escape? And in court, some accountability came, but it never felt like enough.
Yeah, as usual.
36 years in prison for negligence and abandonment. Other crew members received sentences ranging from 5 to 12 years. And the company's owner, Yo Byung-yeon, became the target of a nationwide manhunt. And just weeks later, he was found dead in a field, his body badly decomposed. And the circumstances were never fully explained. And as outrage grew, this whole disaster became part of a larger political crisis that actually eventually led to President Park's impeachment in 2017. Public anger of the government's handling of the tragedy, combined with other crimes.
Was Park the woman? Because I think a lot of this stuff was like under her, and she was like a very corrupt person. But like it's just like back to back corrupt. It wasn't just her that was like corrupt. Again, like the previous dictatorship before all this, I think still trickled down, and just having corrupt people still in power despite not being a dictatorship anymore.
Corruption scandals had created a wave of demonstrations. that filled the streets of Seoul for months. And in 2017, 3 years after it sank, the wreck of the Sewol was finally erased from the seabed.
Oh, they actually erased it?
Watched in silence as the rusted hull emerged from the water, a physical reminder of everything that had been lost. Inside, recovery teams found personal belongings, shoes, backpacks, homework assignments, phones with unsent messages still saved in the drafts. The students at Danwon High School did what they were told. They stayed in their cabins, they waited for instructions, they trusted in their superiors. And that's what makes the disaster so devastating. Not just the number of people who died, but the number of people who could have lived if someone, anyone, had told them just to get out. If the crew had done their jobs, if the company hadn't cut corners, if the inspectors had actually inspected, and even if the Coast Guard had prepared, 304 people died, because at every point where someone could have made a different choice, they didn't. The ferry was modified for profit, not safety. The cargo was overloaded because it was more profitable that way. Inspections passed because failing them would have costed money in relationships. The crew abandoned the ship because saving themselves was easier than staying. And there's a phrase that became associated with the disaster: stay where you are. It's what the announcement said, it's what the teachers repeated, and it's what got so many of them killed. And South Korea became a metaphor for blind obedience, for trusting authority even when it's clearly failing, for staying quiet when you should be moving. The Sewol ferry disaster isn't just a tragedy, it's a scar and a reminder that systems don't protect people automatically, that someone has to care enough to make them work.
Oh, that's how I said it. But yeah, this stuff just reminded me about like how stupid this was. Like actually reigniting some of that anger of like watching this stuff originally from Stephanie. It's like this whole situation is crazy. Again, I swear to that was part of that story, right? Where literal stationed U.S. Navy vessel or something was literally down the street, and they're like, "No, screw you, you can't help. We don't want your help," and just let hundreds of children die. It's so stupid. And again, I was saying it's just further than that, where because you had the school bus and the bridge, you had this disaster, then Itaewon, like all the elderly, I guess even adults, but like the person from that one Itaewon thing, I think he was like kind of old, right, pretty elderly, just again having to watch over and over and over again the system have just fail these children, just have children die over and over again, like I was saying. Them constantly having to watch the generation that's supposed to replace them or even replace their children just being wiped out because the system never saves them. It's just like just driving them crazy. And Dark Soul, I don't know what this is. I mean, it sounds cool, but it probably isn't going to be cool. Please just be cool and not sad, you know, especially after the Seoul ferry disaster. I mean, it's already something we've seen before, like a year ago, but just let Dark Soul be cool and not evil or horrendous. Or disgusting even, I guess. You know, because it sounds like Dark Souls, right? Some sort of video game or whatnot, but I'm guessing there's going to be like some sort of underbelly thing of soul. Because I mean, it's called Dark Soul, so it must be, right?
March 20th, 2013 at 2 p.m. Across Seoul, computer screens went black. Banks, TV stations, government offices, thousands of machines stopped working at the exact same moment.
Oh, we had like a brownout or something?
They stared at error messages they'd never seen before. They tried restarting, but nothing. The computer
blackout, brownout.
IT departments were flooded with calls, and nobody knew what exactly was happening. ATM stopped.
Oh, was that freaking Avatar on the screen back there?
Turn on properly. IT departments were flooded with calls, and nobody knew what exactly was happening. ATM stopped dispensing cash. Online banking froze. News broadcasters couldn't access their systems, and some went off the air entirely. And within an hour, it became clear that this wasn't just a technical glitch. South Korea was under attack, with malware designed to destroy. Just weeks earlier, maybe months, someone in an office in Seoul gets an email. It looks normal, professional.
This is like an attack from North Korea?
Maybe it's congratulating them on a promotion. Maybe it's a
cyber attack.
But regardless, they click it. The page loads. Everything looks fine, and they go back to work. But something has already been installed. A piece of malware now sits on their computer, collecting information, and spreading to other machines on the network, establishing a connection back to whoever sent it. And it doesn't activate right away. It just sits, waiting. And then on March 20th at 2 p.m., it executes. The malware targets the master boot record, the part of the hard drive that tells the computer how to start. It overrides it with junk data, and once it's gone, the machine won't boot. Files can't be recovered without backups, and everything on that drive is essentially gone. And around 48,000 computers were hit. Many banks, major
48,000
that millions of South Koreans relied on, their systems went down, ATMs stopped working. People couldn't access their own accounts. And if that wasn't bad enough, the second wave followed shortly after. Websites were defaced, scroll images appeared on homepages, messages claiming responsibility.
Oh, that image was on the thumbnail. That skull.
With names like Who Is Team and New Romantic Cyber Army Team. And they presented themselves as activist hackers, anonymous style groups upset about the government policies or corrupt greed. But the investigators behind the case didn't buy it whatsoever. The attack was too coordinated, too precise, the malware was too sophisticated, and the defacement messages felt like a distraction, something to muddy the water while the real damage was being done. South Korea.
So, like, were they... Obviously, this was from North Korea, right? Yeah. Pyongyang from North Korea. I'm guessing they were stealing data too, right? It wasn't just like, okay, let's shut everything down. Let's steal as much information as we can, to come and like get as much info to invade them as possible, get all their secrets, and then possibly steal money, and then handicap them with destroying all their information and computers and whatnot.
South Korea's National Intelligence Service started tracing the attack, and they even brought in help from the United States. Cybersecurity firms analyzed the malware, and what they found pointed in one direction, the north. The code had similarities to previous attacks.
Who the heck else would it be? Like, who else would do this to South Korea other than North Korea?
Linked North Korea, an attack all the way back from 2009, and a 2011 attack targeting South Korean banks. And the infrastructure used in the attack traced back to servers in China, a common staging ground for North Korean operations because it provides plausible deniability. And the fake hacker groups claiming responsibility had no real online presence, with no history, just names slapped onto the attack that clearly required state-level resources. And apparently the malware itself was used by North Korea, aimed at stealing military and economic data from the South.
Yep.
And it wasn't just a single attack.
That's what I assumed.
It was part of a broader strategy. And the culprit, according to the South Korean and US intelligence, was North Korea's elite cyber warfare unit, known as the Lazarus Group. And this wasn't the first time they struck, and it
Lazarus? Why would they call themselves Lazarus? I don't know if you said Lazarus or like some other word, but like a biblical name? Question mark? Does North Korea believe in Christianity? I would assume not, with how evil question mark the government is. I don't know if we have to like pretend that North Korea isn't a horrendous place. Like there's still people out there who think it's, or there might be people out there who think it's okay, or this reverse propaganda might have more people believing North Korea is actually, a utopia, question mark, when it's probably the worst place to live on the planet, question mark.
Definitely wouldn't be the last. And the gap between North and South Korea explains a lot of why these attacks happened. After the Korean War, South Korea rebuilt itself. South Korea had quickly become one of the most connected countries in the world, with some of the fastest internet speeds, highest smartphone penetration, and a digital economy built on convenience and speed. But as for North Korea, they took a different path. They isolated, impoverished, cut off from the global economy by sanctions and its own policies. In a real way they can keep up with South Korea is cyber warfare. And cyber warfare is cheaper compared to missiles and tanks. It's deniable. It doesn't require vast resources, just skilled programmers and internet connection. And North Korea invested heavily in building those capabilities. The Dark Soul attack, as it came to be called, caused an estimated $750 million in damage, and that number is part of a larger tally, around $850 million in losses attributed to North Korea's cyber attacks between 2009 and 2013. Backups saved some systems, others had to be completely rebuilt, causing banks to work overtime, companies scrambling to restore services. And the public once again saw firsthand of how fragile their digital infrastructure really was. And the thing is, South Korea should have been prepared. They're one of the most advanced tech economies in the entire world. In late 2012, North Korea launched a rocket, technically a satellite launch, but the same technology can be used for missiles. And in February 2013, they conducted their third nuclear test. The UN imposed sanctions, and North Korea threatened to abandon the armistice that had kept the peace since 1953. Tensions were high, and Dark Soul hit right in the middle of it, and many would believe that the attack was retaliation, a way for North Korea to show it could strike back without firing a shot. And as South Korea realized it had a serious problem, the attack became a wake-up call. Cybersecurity.
Yeah, wouldn't this just cause them to become the most defended cyber country in the on the planet? Question mark. Could you hit them so badly they're going to be okay? We need to have this never happen again. And now, what is North Korea going to do if they create the strongest defense on the planet?
Budgets increased, and companies were pushed to take digital security more seriously. But the lessons came too late for the 48,000 machines that were wiped, the banks that lost customer trust, and North Korea didn't stop. In 2014, they allegedly attacked Sony Pictures over a comedy film about assassinating Kim Jong-un.
That movie. I didn't realize they actually retaliated for that. I've watched that film. I don't think it was that great. It was with Seth Rogen and what's the guy's name? I don't remember his name right now. But yeah, Seth Rogen and the other guy, James. Is James his name? Or what part of his name? Normally when you say his name, you don't just say one part, you say both. For whatever his first and last name. I just don't know what it is. It probably isn't James. But yeah, what was it called? That movie? I literally just watched someone react to it within the last few months, and I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, it's kind of just whatever, right? It's not that crazy of a movie, but I mean, North Korea is North Korea, but I didn't realize they actually attacked Sony over the movie.
Emails were leaked, data was destroyed. The entire incident almost caused a war. And Dark Soul was proof of a concept. It showed that North Korea could.
Okay, I didn't realize that stupid movie actually caused a war. Like, what does Seth Rogen have to say about that then? And the other guy? Like, you literally almost caused a war with North Korea because they're such big babies that they had to retaliate over a stupid movie that's not even that good? Question mark? Like, really?
Could weaponize cyberspace and hurt their enemies without traditional warfare. It made every employee who clicks a link a possible vulnerability. Every system without a backup was a target. The attack itself lasted hours, but the recovery would take weeks. Data that wasn't backed up was lost permanently. Systems had to rebuild from scratch in some cases. And the people in the country realized what they took for granted. ATMs, online banking. They could all disappear in an instant because of a code written by someone sitting in a facility thousands of miles away. Dark Soul wasn't the first attack. It wasn't the last. But it was the one that made the threat undeniable. On that day, thousands of screens went black. They would eventually recover from it. But the anxiety didn't disappear.
Is that the end? Yep, that's the end. I believe the movie was called The Interview. I was just thinking that there at the end. I wasn't saying anything. I was going to wait till the video was over. I think it was called The Interview or something like that. But yeah, again, at least nobody died. So the name, I think I can still say it's cool. Dark Soul is a sick name. Just unfortunate that it was a bunch of cyber attack that destroyed a bunch of computers. And destroys is the wrong word, right? It just wiped them and then destroyed a bunch of other stuff and whatnot. Again, I believe Kim Jong-un is Kim Jong-un, right? Il was his dad. I always get confused with that. Un's daughter is going to take over soon? Question mark. So hopefully, you're gonna assume that he's just taught her everything, just be as evil as possible. But maybe she's gonna be chill, and then we can hope that everything changes. But you could doubt that it's gonna happen. I mean, this man had his brother killed, right? We didn't realize that. I think we watched it from Stephanie too. I believe Kim Jong-un's brother was assassinated? Question mark. Because he was going to go hang out with the U.S. or something. He wanted out, and got killed for it. So I mean, like, literally, will kill family. So, oof. Again, you could hope that she's gonna be cool and chill, but it's not gonna happen. It's like, oh well. Yeah, at least nobody died in the last one, which is what I was hoping for, right? I was asking that, can we get a story where no one dies? Yeah, of course, again, the Seoul ferry disaster. Again, go watch the Rotten Mango video if you haven't seen that one. Same thing with the Burning Sun. This is like 3 videos at least for the Burning Sun scandal from Rotten Mango as well. And like, of course, these first 2 we haven't seen before, but yep, that was that video. Again, there is another Korean one, so maybe we could try out the Japan set of these videos as well at some point. I think we need to go ahead and end now. I mean, I've said everything I had to say for this, especially even like doubling down on this stuff we've already seen before. But yeah, Kyuuties, thanks for watching. Remember to buy my stickers and think about becoming a member. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, so we can watch time and subscribers. And don't forget, we have a throne now as well. And shout out to the members, EmmyStarr, RaleyDrew, and alexgkiller 880. Yeah, Kyuuties, thanks for watching. Tune to the next episode. Like, subscribe, hype, and comment. You know what to do. See ya.